heading to Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Our journey takes us through the western part of this vast wilderness, skirting the shores of the Great Lake, Superior. From the archaic elegance of the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore to the historic landmarks of a still thriving mining industry, the Upper Peninsula offers visitors a wide-open look at pristine and progressive areas living in virtual harmony. Join us on our exciting journey up to the Upper Peninsula. Michigan's Upper Peninsula lies almost 500 miles from the metropolitan madness of Detroit, and by local standards, that's a world away. We began our trip in Marquette, Michigan, the largest town in the UP, as the Upper Peninsula is usually referred to. With a population hovering at just over 30,000, Marquette is a bustling, but not too bustling, university town on Lake Superior. It should certainly come as no surprise that one of the most popular activities around here is charter fishing. Captain Jim Mackey of the Catch-A-Fin spends warm weather months ferrying people out into the clean, fish-filled waters of Lake Superior.
The quality of the fish and the fish are so plentiful out here that we've got a good supply of fish, lake trout, salmon, and being on a charter boat, we know the captains, we know where to fish, and it's fairly easy for the clientele to land quite a few fish during the day.
The first order of business is always finding a place to drop anchor.
There's some other smaller fish here. You can see the small dots.
Here too?
Right here is where the boat is. Right at
Next, Captain Jim preps eager amateurs on how to handle his rods. The process is slightly more advanced than throwing a piece of string into a fishing hole.
Oh, I can feel him. Right.
Most of the time, the people get a real thrill coming out here because a lot of them have never fished out in the Great Lakes. And this type of fishing with the downriggers and the releases, and when they get a fish, we get quite a few of them that run in from the 5 to 10, 12 pound, 15 pound range. And to most people, that's probably the biggest fish they've ever seen or ever even dreamed of catching.
It's the biggest fish I've ever caught.
Well,
All right,
okay.
We got a new world record here.
See, this is, that's a lake trout.
Woohoo!
A day on the lake leaves most folks feeling exhausted, exhilarated, and ready for one hell of a fish fry. "40 minutes east of Marquette, interpretive specialist Greg Bruff prepared us for an offshore excursion along Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore.
They are cliffs that range anywhere from 50 to 200 feet off of Lake Superior.
Very few half-a-billion-year-old rocks manage to keep up appearances as well as these do.
Well, the Pictured Rocks get their names from the different minerals that come out of the sandstone. The black is from manganese dioxide, the red and orange are from iron, and the green is from copper that's found in the sandstone. Pictured Rocks are made of sediments that were eroded from a mountain range that used to be south of here that was probably as large or larger than the Alps.
The Pictured Rocks may no longer stand as tall as a mountain range, but they're certainly every bit as magnificent. Helping document the UP's brilliant scenery is one of the nation's foremost landscape artists, Nita Engel. A UP native, Nita spends much of the winter lecturing around the world, but the rest of the year is spent painting at her lakefront home near Marquette.
I can now live wherever I want to live, and I chose to come back here. It's still 90% wilderness, 98% wilderness in the Upper Peninsula, and I'm living right on the edge, right in the wilderness, on the beach. No roads, no towns, no farms. It's just the wilderness, the way it always has been.
Nita works in watercolors because she feels it's a medium that paints itself. Using a variety of original techniques, she's able to set the stage for marvelous things to happen.
I want people to feel like they're in the scene. When you're sitting in a chair reading a book, you're wherever they tell you you are. You're not you're not aware you're sitting in a chair reading a book. You're off in Spain or wherever the author tells you you are. I want you to get buried in a painting this way. It's not as possible, but I tried.
With such a large part of the population holed up in concrete jungles, Nita's paintings often serve as soothing substitutes to folks who long for the real thing.
I think people have a need to get back to the land and to the wilderness, and people are even saying that to me now who live in cities. That's why they buy the prints and the paintings, because it gives them a little escape to be somewhere else.
And realistically speaking, there are few more pleasant places in this world than those on Nita Engel's canvas. A half hour northwest of Marquette, Big Bay, Michigan made headlines years ago when Jimmy Stewart, Lee Remick, and other Hollywood stars came to town to film the classic Anatomy of a Murder. This seemingly sedate town was the site of the actual murder the movie was based on. Years later, folks still come to check out silver screen landmarks like the Thunder Bay Inn. Others seek out the solitude of the Big Bay Point Lighthouse Bed and Breakfast.
If you use the true meaning of bed and breakfast as Michigan does, why there is no other one in the United States.
Lighthouse keeper Buck Gottschall lives an idyllic lifestyle in Big Bay with his wife Marilyn. Together they've established an atmosphere of warmth and comfort that is rarely lost on big city guests.
It could be the first day they'll want to rush up and get everything done and run out into the woods and see this and see that. By the third day that they're here, they're just so relaxed and so at home, they just don't want to leave and get back into that city stressful life.
Among other things, lighthouse guests are proclaimed honorary lighthouse keepers upon arrival.
It's an awesome responsibility to be a lighthouse keeper.
This kind of clever interaction with guests has made the lighthouse a very popular spot, but its biggest boast is the location.
We have several things that I'm quite proud of, but foremost, I think, is that we have a full mile of Lake Superior frontage. No one else has that much frontage, commercially, I'm sure.
Over the years, publications around the country have written about the Big Bay Lighthouse, but Buck favors some prose offered by a local writer.
Dixie Franklin, our favorite writer, said that waves lapping on the shore, cradling guests to sleep, climbing boulder after boulder on this inland sea too wide to see across.
Sounds almost too good to be true. Just west of Marquette, on Route 28, the towns of Negaunee and Ishpeming are rich in iron industry lore. Retired mining executive Bert Boyum took us on a fascinating tour of the area, where high-grade ore was first discovered back in 1844.
Welcome to Jasper Knob, here in the city of Ishpeming. Ishpeming in the Ojibwe language means the high sacred place. And this is the place where mining started in 1848 on the hillside over here, and the mining then continued in under the town.
Although UP mines still produce a good percentage of our country's iron, many mines have closed. Remnants of a once thriving industry are everywhere. Some are even edible.
This is a Cornish pasty. It's the traditional meal that the miner would take underground. It's a self-contained meal. It's got potatoes, beefsteak, onions, and the yellow turnip. Underground, the miner could heat it by putting it on the shovel and putting candles underneath, and then it would be hot and tasty and ready to go.
No tour would be complete without a visit to the Iron Industry Museum in Negaunee. Locals like Bert are extremely proud of the way the museum chronicles the mining industry.
This is the Michigan Iron Industry Museum, located on the site of the original Carp River Forge. This is a museum that depicts the exploration and the development of iron mining on the 3 ranges in Michigan. It shows the mining equipment. It shows the evolution of the miners' lights, for example, an illustration of the tools that were used, and something about the social life of the miners here in Michigan. That's the end of our tour of iron mining in the Upper Peninsula. We hope that you'll come and visit us.
Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park is 63,000 acres of scenic splendor. Located a few hours west of Marquette, the Porkies, as everyone calls them around here, offer unlimited opportunities for those in need of some of nature's nourishment. In Silver City, located in the heart of the Porkies, we stop by the studio of photographer Dan Urbanski. For him, there's no place like the Porkies.
I'd like to say that, yeah, I'd be at home and would like to photograph things outdoors no matter where I was, but I really do feel dedicated to the Porcupine Mountains and the western Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I think I find that Lake of the Clouds is probably the place in the Porkies that I visit most often, and that has a lot to do with that it is visually interesting and it also is varied. The scene changes dramatically even during the course of one day.
Dan finds particular satisfaction in venturing to little visited parts of the park.
You can enjoy solitude and all of Lake Superior as far as you can see. You can have it to yourself. That kind of sets the mood for getting creative with the camera. It's visually interesting because the rocks are tilted and angled down in toward Lake Superior, create strong angles in the photograph. There's a lot that can be done there. I kind of wish I could keep this secret all to myself, but there is also something that makes me want to share it with the rest of the world. And that is a lot of what my photography is about.
An hour and a half north of the Porkies, Route 26 runs into the towns of Houghton and Hancock. Situated at the foot of the Keweenaw Peninsula, thousands of Finnish immigrants descended upon the area in the late 1800s to work in the copper mines. Today, the Finnish culture is alive and thriving. Significant aspects of the Finnish-American experience can be found at the Heritage Center at Suomi College. Here, archivist Olaf Rankinen and historian Dan Mackey are busy preserving more than just the Finnish language. Olaf spoke of growing up in Finnish America.
I grew up on a Finnish farm where even the cows spoke Finnish and the dogs. We did not know a word of English when we went to the country grade school, one-room schoolhouse with one teacher for about 35 children. So as far as we were concerned, it was Finland.
Among other things, the center houses important immigrant archives. It also showcases various aspects of modern Finnish life, like this tapestry exhibit. One of Dan Mackey's most gratifying projects is enlightening Finnish Americans to the Kalevala, Finland's national epic poem.
Well, the Kalevala is a compilation of some of the epic folk poetry of the Finnish backwoods. It was very important in Finnish history. There probably might not be a country of Finland today because Finland had never been an independent country, and it was a revelation to Finnish people that something had been accomplished in their language, something great. The language is beautiful.
One of the most effective ways of keeping any culture aflourish is with a cunning culinary craft. Paula Rocco, owner of the Suomi Home Bakery and Restaurant in Houghton, serves up panukaku, a delicious Finnish-style pancake, all day long. At the turn of the century, Calumet was the home of copper barons and their money, lots of money. The town was so well off, in fact, the citizens decided to erect a splendid theater. The Calumet Theater's present executive director, Jim O'Brien, spoke of those glory days.
In the early years of the theater, many of the legends of the American stage appeared here. Sarah Bernhardt performed here, Lothian Russell, Maude Adams. During the 20s, as the mines declined and the world price of copper declined, it affected the local economy, and also the advent of the motion picture affected the type of entertainment that people became accustomed to. So by the mid-30s, it was pretty much a movie theater.
Thanks to the efforts of Jim and others, the beautifully renovated theater is again playing host to prominent touring companies and filling guests with rich memories of a glamorous bygone era. Venturing north on Route 26, we stumbled upon a truly fascinating find. In the tiny town of Eagle Harbor, the Jam Pot offers not only delicious jams and fruitcakes, but a look into a life that is little explored by the average person. You see, the Jam Pot is run by Brother Peter and Brother Stephen, both Benedictine monks.
The Jam Pot started out for us as a way to make a living, and it still does that, provides us with our living, and does increasingly well at it each year. But it has also become a tremendous vehicle for our apostolate, for spreading the word about ourselves and for getting our ideas out to the general public.
I look to you, O God, to be my strength this day. Alleluia.
The Jam Pot allows people to approach us to approach monasticism. It allows people to ask questions, and many people do.
Best of all, it allows people to savor some of the tastiest jams around. After spending some truly memorable moments with our new friends, we headed north into the little town of Copper Harbor. Snugly situated along Lake Superior shores, the town is the epitome of quaint, complete with its own one-room schoolhouse. Highlighting a visit here, local naturalist Jim Rooks takes people up to Estevant Pines, 600 acres of virgin pine he helped preserve.
When the campaign to save the pines was over, I was left with that one phrase that always stuck in my mind: a quiet full of noise in a slightly wooded place. And that's what we were left with. We were left with this one little patch of pine, and when you walked into the pine, you left all noise behind you. It was the ultimate in quiet noise.
Jim has one wish to send visitors home with.
I would like them to take the solitude with them so they could be at peace wherever they went back to. I don't know how long that will last, but I'm sure that's why people come back here.
Our final stop in the area was, appropriately enough, at the last place on Earth. That's where Tom Manico has made a name for himself carving beautiful wooden spoons.
They're made with a lot of care. I'm not punching them out. In other words, I'm not making a whole bunch of spoons, but the spoons are different. They go with the flow of the wood, and it's a natural type of thing.
Using mostly wood that's indigenous to the Keweenaw Peninsula, Tom finds it's one of many advantages of living here.
You don't have the hustle and bustle of city life. It's very laid back and relaxed. I'm working out here, and if I decide that, hey, it's getting too sawdusty in here, I just walk outside, maybe I'll get another idea by looking at a tree.
And what truly sets his spoons apart from others?
I take an awful lot of time on the final finishing, and it's the feel, it's the touch value. As soon as you touch one of the spoons, you become captivated that you must own it, and it's good.
Well, folks, we're out of time. We hope you were as dazzled by Michigan's Upper Peninsula as we were, and we certainly hope our little armchair adventure has enticed you to want to get out and experience the back roads of America firsthand. I'm Steve Fox. I'll see you in our next American road trip.
Hey, we got a new world record here.
See, this is, that's a lake trout.
Woohoo!
A day on the lake leaves most folks feeling exhausted, exhilarated, and ready for one hell of a fish fry. "40 minutes east of Marquette, interpretive specialist Greg Bruff prepared us for an offshore excursion along Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore.
They are cliffs that range anywhere from 50 to 200.
The peninsula lies almost 500 miles from the metropolitan madness of Detroit, and by local standards, that's a world away. We began our trip in Marquette, Michigan, the largest town in the UP, as the Upper Peninsula is usually referred to. With a population hovering at just over 30,000, Marquette is a bustling, but not too bustling, university town on Lake Superior. It should certainly come as no surprise that one of the most popular activities around here is charter fishing. Captain Jim Mackey of the Catch-A-Fin spends warm weather months ferrying people out into the clean, fish-filled waters of Lake Superior.
The quality of the fish and the fish are so plentiful out here that we've got a good supply of fish, lake trout, salmon, and being on a charter boat, we know the captains, we know where to fish, and it's fairly easy for the clientele to land quite a few fish during the day.
The first order of business is always finding a place to drop anchor.
There's some other smaller fish here. You can see the small dots. Yeah, right here is where the boat is. Right.
Next, Captain Jim preps eager amateurs on how to handle his rods. The process is slightly more advanced than throwing a piece of string into a fishing hole.
Oh, I can feel him. Right.
Most of the time, the people get a real thrill coming out here because a lot of them have never fished out in the Great Lakes, and this type of fishing with the downriggers and the releases, and when they get a fish, we get quite a few of them that run in from the 5 to 10, 12 pound, 15 pound range, and to most people that's probably the biggest fish they've ever seen or ever even dreamed of catching.
It's the biggest fish I've ever.
We're heading to Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Our journey takes us through the western part of this vast wilderness, skirting the shores of the Great Lake, Superior. From the archaic elegance of the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore to the historic landmarks of a still thriving mining industry, the Upper Peninsula offers visitors a wide-open look at pristine and progressive areas living in virtual harmony. Join us on our exciting journey up to the Upper Peninsula. Michigan's Upper